So good morning, everybody. I'm really excited for today's call, and I hope that for those of you who can unmute yourself to make this more of a discussion, I hope that you will, or for those who are at work, you'll type in and I can add your comments to the discussion. But I wanted to talk today about egoless leadership, and it's a kind of an idea that popped into my head a while ago because what I'm learning, I am a raging Ruby. And when people don't shut up and follow directions and follow the recipe and the formula that we have to offer, my ego gets in the way. I take offense to that. I get really frustrated, like, why aren't you doing this? Why don't you want to be successful? What are you doing? I apparently become very questioning and like I'm parenting them. And that's not exactly the way I want to be coaching and leading my team. And so through the GEMS work that I've done so far, I was in DC, I was in Cleveland with my husband. A lot of the struggles that we've had on our team historically, I can pinpoint kind of back to the conflict between GEMS and just not understanding. And years of people telling me that I was a Pearl Sapphire, and realizing that I not only have like zero Pearl in me, I literally don't get it. So that's where I struggle. Of course, my team is made up of primarily pearls and emeralds. Emeralds I get. My husband is an emerald, so I can talk to them. I can work with them. I can do that. That's all good. But figuring out how our team works and trying to connect without ego, I think, is something that can be a challenge for a lot of us. Not necessarily a challenge in that we have to work to make it happen, but at least it's the topic that comes up, right? And unfortunately, I didn't get to go to Summit. Owen, last year we had a ticket to Summit, or I had a ticket. We didn't get to go because I was 41 weeks pregnant and waiting for his arrival with bated breath. I thought, there's no way we're going to be 12 days late. I can buy one for next year. Turns out we were 10 days late. And so I didn't make it to Summit this year because of his first birthday and certainly not leaving my family and my why to pursue Summit. So I did some other stuff, but then hearing some of, all the conversation that we've had, like in our group coming back from Summit, about some of the things that happened, some of the tension, some of the turmoil. I know there were several threads that we were talking about, and figuring out as leaders how to kind of rise above that and lead with grace and lead without ego and still shine despite having, teammates who are gossiping and teammates who are causing drama and teammates who are whatever their own stuff is that's getting in the way. And so I want to kind of wrap all of that into today's conversation. As I went back through my notes to kind of get ready for today, one of the things, the other part is that ego is the one thing that kept popping up in my mind as the message from Dani. That was one of my big takeaways from DC, was checking my ego, getting that under control. Because, for so long it was a defense mechanism. And I have to be really careful about that. So as I was going through my notes, one of the things that really stood out was the number one stopper of success is ego, right? We all know that. For those of us who have stumbled, it's usually because one or more parts of our ego have jumped in and been some kind of block for us moving forward, whether that's in our business or in a relationship or with kids or parenting or work or, whatever that might be. For me, it was actually Dani. And I kind of joke because I was watching everybody else around me go to Dani, plug in, really start creating their a great business, building their business, having great success. And I'm sitting here, arms folded, attitude, ego on, saying, I don't need that. I got this. And I'm not seeing any improvement. I'm not seeing growth. I'm not seeing change. So I had to check my ego. Okay, something's happening at these events. Something's going on that I need to plug into. And that's why I decided to go. And so ego is really one of those things that, even if we don't think so, one of those things that I think a lot of us have that kind of pops up sometimes. The other part is that jumped out at me that I had multiple stars next to. How we all make notes in our notes to bring it back. I had multiple stars next to a lack of vision equals a big ego. A man without a vision will perish. But she said this a couple times, a lack of vision is due to a big ego. And that really started to sink in because, I had big ideas for me. Talk about ego. I wasn't having big ideas for our team. It wasn't a big idea for our entire group. It wasn't including their ideas. It was my agenda trying to put onto them and then being frustrated and pissed when they didn't do what I needed them to do to reach my agenda. So there was a lot of conflict. So it can happen with the team. It can happen with customers. We all have challengers who, sign up, they get ready, they're all in, but something happens, they don't do it, they don't follow the recipe. How do we lead with grace and integrity versus ego and not take it personally and let the ego get in the way. So I will be super vulnerable and share from my DC notes from the very beginning, morning on forgiveness. I need to be willing to accept failure. It's okay if I'm not always right. I need to stop using success as a mask for pain and failure. And I need to shut up and learn how to listen. Because ego really stops us from following directions. And, we have to drop that ego, stay humble, stay teachable, in order for us to be able to lead. To lead with grace, to lead with integrity, to lead forward. So I would love to open it up for some discussion. What are some things, examples maybe that you guys have had where there was a conflict, there was something going on, maybe within your team, but you either struggled with it and ego got in the way and you would have liked to have handled it differently, or maybe you were able to check that ego and handled it with grace. And how did you do that? Does anybody want to jump in? I see people jumping on still. Good morning, everybody.
I'll jump in for a moment.
Okay, thanks, Carrie.
So my primary gem is a pearl, and my second is probably emerald. It's like an emerald sapphire tie, but I really think it's more emerald. I think my sapphire is rebelling from the emerald sometimes. I don't know. But I think for me, a big takeaway when I was in Cleveland, and it's something I've revisited several times, and I have a lot of emeralds on my team as their primary, and I have some ruby coaches, and I used to be terrified of ruby coaches. intimidated by them. And I realized that that was my ego. Like it was my insecurity covered up in this defense. My dad's a ruby. My dad's a total ruby. My husband's a ruby. And so what I've had to learn that she said when she talked about pearls and she talked about how they explode, it was a big aha moment for me because I do that. And I couldn't figure out why. And it was because of my ego. I was letting myself be a doormat, and it was there. I had no one to blame but myself. So what I've had to learn, like Summit, I had a couple coaches. It wasn't a lot of drama, but it was just situations where they would get frustrated or offended because they wanted to go and someone wanted to stay. And it's like everyone was trying to travel like a herd. And it was like, you can just go. We're all adults, you know. But some people were really aggravated, and I had to learn not to own it. Instead, just to like listen to it and not absorb it, just let them process it and then kind of speak truth into it. Or if I offended somebody, even though I didn't intend to, by apologizing for offending them, I've had to learn, does it make me a doormat? You know what I mean? Like I felt like, because being a pearl for so long, I felt like I let myself be a doormat, and then I would get mad and then I put a wall up. So I've learned the balance of admitting my mistakes does not mean I suck. And like apologizing for the act, whatever it was that offended the person, and kind of swallowing my pride. Even if I didn't intend it, if it offended them, I still should own whatever part I had a part in. And I think it's helped me relate more to the ruby and emeralds that I work with because they respect that more. And I think it's kind of, there's been some peace, like less tension, even with my husband. Like when he tells me things, instead of explaining myself to own it, like, okay, I didn't intend that, but that made you feel that way. And I don't need to explain myself. I just need to like apologize for what I did. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean I stink. Like, so that was kind of a big aha that I got from Dani that I've been trying to bring into my team and my family. I don't know if that helps, but that's kind of what I've been trying to do. And it's helped. I literally, when she talked about the diabolicalness of pearls, like this force, that I started crying, laughing, because it's so true and no one ever believes it. But like when I lose my stuff, like embarrassingly crazy, and I was praying literally for years, like, why do I keep doing this? And I mean, it was like the aha of that time in Cleveland. I came home and told my husband, I know why I'm blowing up. I know I'm blowing up. And then I put walls up and I don't let anybody in because I feel like a victim, you know, and so that really was a big aha to change my like kind of lens through which I saw things. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Any other pearls in here? Anybody else a primary pearl? No? You might be our only pearl, Kelly. At least right here. Any other primary rubies? I am. So Jen, are you on the same line, like pre Dani and still a little now? Like I understand the need for apologizing and taking the ownership. Kelly, I think that's awesome that you're able to do that and like see the difference between, it doesn't have to mean that you're a doormat and you can still own your own stuff. My go-to is always then, no, that's not what I meant. And let me convince you that right fighting, no, that's not what I meant. You don't get to feel offended because that's not what I meant. I don't know, you know, and I'm learning how much of that right fighting ruby, I was born to win, I have to win, and be right. You know, how much that is coming through. And so that's, you know, even within these conflicts, I think it's, or disagreements or just interactions, how much our each one comes in. So Kelly, you said you have your secondary you think is emerald?
Yeah, it's like an emerald. It's an emerald sapphire tie, which is kind of funny, but I really honestly, which is crazy, but I think it's honestly, I think that the sapphire part of me honestly was just the rebellious part of, like, it's the fun. I mean, my pearls, I can be fun.
Absolutely.
But I verbally process, like I have to talk through things, but I don't want to be in the front. Like a lot of the sapphire-ness things are really just, I think, part of the pearl. And
Yeah.
so, but the other thing I want to say is learning the things I've had to learn, I still have what I'm still trying to overcome. And I think that's why my goal is to get to, like, in the next year, a goal to go to a dynasty. I can't make the fall one, but in the year, I still get sick in my stomach. Like my body still processes the stress and the fear and the nervousness. Although mentally in my heart and my mind, I know it's not true. There's still like, so when I have to not stand up, but like speak truth and love, I still am like shaking on the inside, and I need freedom from that. So I think I've learned the awareness of what I need to do, but it's still like really uncomfortable for me. So, but I'm still trying to figure out my secondary. I think, I don't know. I have grooming the next generation. My husband and I are going to start doing it together to our kids. And I think that'll help us understand ours. He's a ruby, but when she talks about how rubies morph into pearls when they've been beat down, that's where he's been the last year. Like he completely folded. Growing up, every time he tried to lead and win and he was pretty much smacked down. And so that was a big aha for him. It's like he's been addicted to PD since I got home because he won't stop listening. He's taken like my stuff that I bought, which is great. But so I think part of it is we're trying to figure out, have we been groomed? Some of this has been groomed in us. And if so, what do you even do with that?
Yeah. Okay, let me jump over. I took 2 seconds and didn't look at the notes. Yeah, Kimberly, I got that muted. Okay, we've got some other pearls for you, Kelly. So Rhonda and Tasha and Jess. I knew there had to be another pearl on here. Just mathematically, there had to be at least one more. So Becky was saying a huge thing for me is understanding that I can't help everyone. I'm better able to help some people than others. And that's the same for everyone. Absolutely, Becky. And we've talked about this so many times, and we've talked about this in, getting started calls. We've talked about this like in so many different forums that the people who are going to be drawn to you are going to be different than the people drawn to me, are different than the people drawn to Jess or Kessa or Kimberly or Kristen or Kelly or anybody else, because of what we have and what we bring with us. But I think that a huge piece of that also is, my mom is a pearl and I love her dearly. But as I stated, I don't get them. Like I'm working really hard, but I don't get it because I'm such a strong ruby. And I think a lot of my strength as a ruby comes from wanting to rebel and push against my mom's really, 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 really strong pearl. And so it was that push-pull. And so I shy away from, like Kelly was saying, kind of being a little bit afraid to work with rubies, kind of shy away from pearls. Although, because I didn't know and because everybody was telling me I was a pearl for so long, which is so weird to me, that's who is on my team. So, it's like I've got a team full of people who say, I don't care if I get paid. I just want to help people, which means they're running free challenges, 12 days till next Tuesday. And they are coaching people for free. And it's okay if you can't afford it. Why don't you borrow my copy? And, it's like, you realize you could be getting paid for this, right? You realize you could be doing X, Y, and Z, giving away their entire Shakeology bag because one of their friends at work wanted to try it. And it's like, okay, give them a packet or two, but, we don't have to split your bag. Lots of, different things and trying to be so helpful. And I'm sitting over here thinking, by golly, this is a business. Like, let's do this. Much more of a business mindset. And Kristen, yeah, do you want to unmute yourself?
Right, like what you were saying, like it's a business. I think what has helped me in the last few months was obviously the Dani takeaway that I got I think it was a Dynasty, but she was saying like, if we can focus on being a unifier of our team and try to keep our own opinions out of the situations. Like I hadn't even realized this, but I had a lot of problems with the rubies that were on my team. And it was because I never set a clear boundary or a standard. And once I was able to go back and say, this is what where I expect to be treated, like I don't want to be talked down to, or my problem was that the rubies were kind of like plowing right over me because that's not my main gem. So I had to kind of set the boundary and say like, you know, this is what I'm here for you, is to help your skills. And I had the kind of big realization that not everybody comes in with the same like mindset, skill set, anything, desire, any of it. But my job was just to make sure everybody was on the same page. And it has made it easier to kind of just keep my opinion so much like to myself, and kind of save that for the people that are like in here, or like my friends, or the people that I'm closer to, and then keep the opinion away from the team. Because, you know, that whole, what is it, the crap rolls downhill or uphill or something. And, you know, I needed that kind of direction with the leadership thing of just saying like, here's the tone I want to set with you. I'm going to bring all of us together and get us all in the same spot. And then whatever they choose to do with it, that's on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It saves me a lot of headache. Sapphires don't like headache.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm at right now, is I created the headache for myself by not setting that tone. And I just kind of got to the point right now where I'm like, okay, that's it. There is no more walking over me. It's like, there is no more free. I am not going to be giving anything to anybody, because everybody's expecting to like, for me to like give everything to them, and I'm done with it. You know, it's like, this is how I'm making my supplemental income. So, you know, I want to help you and I would love for you to be part of that, but this is what it's going to be. And, you know, I'm getting a lot of fallback from that, but that's fine. I'm okay with that, because I had to draw that line finally. And I was actually expecting more fallback from my husband because of that, but he was like, I'm so proud of you for finally standing up for yourself, because I'm tired of watching you like get walked over and be so upset about it all the time. So I was just like, oh my God, it felt so good to finally go ahead and do that. And I think that eventually they're going to come around, because they're actually seeing that I'm finally sticking with it. And I've got that consistency finally. They're seeing how much fun I'm having with it, and that I'm finally getting some results. So it'll just take them time, but I'm not going to let them walk all over them. And I finally set that tone. So it was just such a headache. And I do want to help everybody, but I think I finally just figured out who I want to help. So it's going to be interesting to see where it's going to go now that I've figured out who I want to help. And kind of passing along the people that I can't help, or that I really don't feel that I'm more qualified to help, to people that I think are better suited to help them. Because I really, if I could, I would help everybody. And the weird thing is, I'm not even a pearl.
What are
That's
you?
all I have. I'm a sapphire. I'm definitely a sapphire.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Everybody can be helpful, right? Just in our own way. So I think a really good question. Katie just asked, what about people who are asking for meal planning tips a lot? And I think we could even take out the meal planning part and say tips, right? Organization tips, time management tips. How do you do this when you're working full-time and have kids? How do you meal plan when you're at work all day? How do you blah, blah, blah? So yeah, definitely, you know, sending them a meal plan, offering to have them join, you know, like a 10-day Shakeology challenge where you are like organically sharing tips and tricks. When I find people asking a lot of the same question, especially when I'm getting it from different people, I try to provide that through value on my like Facebook posts. So as I've gone back to work, it's been a huge struggle for me balancing having a 12-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 1-year-old working 12-hour shifts that I have to commute an hour or more each way, and still having, healthy dinner on the table. So for me, thank God for all of you guys in DC who are like crockpot queens, because I was the one in DC saying, how do you do this? How do you do that? What are you doing? How could I do this? Because I had never used a crock pot. And now literally, so I work now 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. on my work days. I have to be out of the house by 10 a.m. So that I can get to work, and I'm not home until just after midnight. And so the other part is that if I were to leave it up to my husband, my kids would be eating McDonald's on a daily basis. I did not explicitly leave out a snack on Friday, and they decided to go to Burger King and split chicken McNuggets and French fries as an afternoon snack before coming home and making the dinner, or eating the dinner that I had left and prepped for them. So God only knows what it would turn into, right? And again, it's that need to control even when I'm not home. It was Daddy's time. They were having a nice afternoon. They stopped for a snack. It's not exactly the best, but it's not the worst. I guess, not feeding them and letting them cry and be hungry would be worse. I would certainly have liked something better than Burger King chicken nuggets and French fries and pop as a snack. But, now I'm starting my crock pot before I leave for work. So it's ready for them, when they get home for dinner. But, I was that person. So now what I try to do is, like, I have a lot of people asking me. I have a lot of the people who I'm working with right now are new moms who I met right around the time that I was pregnant and having Owen. So we all had, those things in common. And so in Canada, we're all starting to go back to work because it's been the time of our maternity leave. So a lot of people are asking for those tips. So I have started on my like page sharing those recipes as I'm making them, because they're great tips for everybody who are short on time, who have families, who work, who want to do meal planning. And so it's a way that I can add value. So that might be an option, Katie, is if you're getting some of those things, share a couple of the recipes and start that conversation that way. One of the ones that is a huge fan in our house is the one that we made in DC. I don't know if it was Kimberly's recipe, but the chicken with the can of chilies and the tomatoes, and off you go. It's easy. It's phenomenal. It can turn into like 8 different things once it's cooked. And it's a family favorite. And I have had tons of people want to try that. Even at work, when I'm heating it up, everybody's like, wow, that smells really good. What is that? And I'm able to start having conversations with some of the nurses in the emergency room about what I'm doing. And so it's, it's opening up those conversations. So finding opportunities to provide value rather than answering the same question one-on-one for everybody. So does anybody else have any thoughts or things that might have been sparked that they wanted to share? I'm just reading through the rest of the... Yeah, Kelly was saying direct them to the page or the group. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate everybody jumping on. I hope that our chat this morning was helpful. Does anybody, have any last minute tips that they have pop in, or maybe notes that you guys have seen themes come from your times at Dani?
Can I just ask y'all a general question? Oh, sorry, Jen, you want to go ahead? So I have my notes from Cleveland, and I bought programs there, and I have the MP3, and then there's like the podcast, and I feel like I have a hard time because I'm listening every day to something. What do you guys do? Here comes out my emerald. What do you do to like, I don't want to be hopping from like MP3 to podcast to job nomination to thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you guys just like kind of stick to one thing at a time? Because I feel like if I'm all over the place, I'm not really learning one thing. Does that make sense? Like I have the scripts, and so I've been listening to different things, but I don't know how to like, I'm trying to build this into my routine, if that makes sense. So every day I'm listening and learning something. But do you guys just pick a program of hers and like work through it and then go to the next one? Or do you have, because I feel like when we hop on these, I want to go back now and revisit my First Steps MP3, which I've been listening to that a lot. But like, what do you guys do to kind of build this into your routine? If you don't mind, I just practically speaking, because I feel like I'm hopping all over and I wonder if there's like an easier way. One at a time. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Thank you. That
Yeah.
helps.
So there are some tips. My Sapphire ADHD pops out and I'm like, ooh, I need to do this today. Ooh, I should do this today. Not sure how effective it is.
That's what I feel like, because, you know, Summer talks about how she reads over and over and over, and I'm like, oh, I'm reading this, and then I'm reading that, and then I want to start grooming, and I want to do, you know, and I'm not working if I'm doing that all day. So I'm kind of, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have any great tips. It sounds like prioritizing, you know, the top 2 or 3 looks to be kind of the theme tip.
Love that. Okay, thank you.
I had a ton of reminders just prepping for our call today, literally just reading through my notes, because I think, you know, obviously DC was very different than Cleveland, just in the message that came across in her presentation, in the vibe. So there's that. But what stuck out to me, my notes are very, very, very similar. As different as those 2 events were, my notes are very, very similar. So clearly those are the messages that I needed to pop through. So for me, like I've gone back to my notes. I've done the MP3s a few times, but I fast forward looking for something. It's like, I know it happened Saturday afternoon. Let me try to kind of jump ahead, because, you know, I don't have time to sit and listen to the entire thing like on repeat, right? So if I'm looking for like clarification, or if I'm looking at my notes and I don't remember like the full message, I'll go back to that. But otherwise I kind of keep it focused on my notes until that really sinks in. Yeah. Anybody else? Thoughts, questions? We have 4 minutes and 36 seconds.
Okay, I'll hurry up. Okay, you said you're Emerald, right? Yeah. Yeah. So it just reminded me of, so in San Diego last time, she said, I brought this home because Drew is an Emerald and he needed this, but he's always gets stuck researching, and he was getting lost in like, what am I supposed to be working on? Like same kind of thing. And at this last one, she said that the Emeralds, she spends her time, instead of researching, testing it, tracking it, and tweaking it, and not getting stuck in the constant planning and I guess so much the not the researching. She just kept saying like, don't research your way to success, test it and track it and that kind of thing. So she spent the most time talking to the Emeralds this time, which was so crazy. But, yeah,
that's an awesome tip, Kristen. Thank you for sharing that. That was super fast. I was like less than a minute. Nice job. All right, guys. Anybody else want to jump in? Any other questions? Jen?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself.
Oh, I was trying to find you.
Before, but I've just really been really like trying to learn gems, like understand them more. And I've only gotten to one Dani so far, going to San Antonio, but I've been, re-listening to that and reading and stuff. I don't have the mastery, but it's just fascinating to me, especially just having like a husband and 4 kids and lots of siblings, and just trying to like figure out how we all are so different. And it's been really cool. I have just 1 girl and then 3 boys, and my daughter and I are very close, but we fight a lot. Maybe not fight, but I've figured out that she's a sapphire pearl and I'm a ruby emerald, and it's like, oh, that is where it's coming from. And I want her to clean her room and do it now, and she just wants to like play with her, animals and like, like have fun. And anyway, I know time is running out, but it's just been really cool. Our relationship has, I think I shared in the group too, like I was trying to listen to this motivational video and she's like, I hate it that they're yelling at me. And that was like a huge opening conversation for us to just understand each other better. And, just like, I don't know, just talk through how we can relate better. And it's funny, is my 5-year-old son, he's like, I need the pump you up video. Like he loves it because he's total ruby sapphire and he's like, I want it. So, I mean, it's just interesting. I just love it. Anyway, I just am thankful just for being able to understand my family better. So I just encourage you to really, really keep digging into it and trying to understand. So that's all.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely. I think especially with parenting, right? We have a pearl. We have our little one who's our 5-year-old who's a raging sapphire. And then even now at just 13 months, Owen is a ruby through and through, just watching his personality. So absolutely helpful. All right, guys, thank you so much for jumping on. Hopefully this was helpful. And I will get the recording posted as soon as I can if you guys want to share it with some of your team. All right, bye, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good day.